Okay. Well, such a privilege that you would come here. Shawn Ledig. What's your middle name?
Michael?
Shawn Michael Ledig. Such a privilege to have you, brother. I appreciate you. We met doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Yes.
Yeah, my first competitor.
First, both of us, first competitor. Yeah. I still say to this day, even after all those titles and all those medals, that you're probably the toughest match. Maybe it was because we might not have known what we were doing.
We didn't know what we were doing.
But dog, that was a tough match, huh? That was 5 minutes of hell.
That was exciting. So you're 6'5", right?
6'5". I was 215 then. Remember?
I remember you cut down to 215.
Oh, I cut down. And
what's your walking around weight?
Well, 230, 235. But then remember that just this past year and a half, at 2024 Worlds, I don't know why, but I got a wild hair, and I actually went up to Ultra. I thought, nah, it won't cut weight. But then I get there, and I'm the lightest person by like 45 pounds.
Really?
Everybody was 280 to 310.
How'd you do?
Oh, man, it was tough. No, I lost. I lost that first match. I still to this day say I probably would have. I know I would have podiumed in super heavy. Maybe the three guys that were on the podium I beat throughout the year. So who knows? But it was. I think it's good that I did it. Me and Clay Gordon Hire talked about this and was like, man, what do you think? He's like, I don't know, it's tough. But now that I'm going back to super heavy, just for Worlds this year,
yeah,
I'm probably going to do super heavy in Brazil. Okay. It depends, and then super heavy at International Masters, just the majors. Okay. But this weekend in Dallas, I'll stay at Ultra, and then But yeah, but it gives me that confidence because I don't care if they're 300 pounds or not now. I've already look. The biggest guy I did was in Houston. He was like 410. I mean, he's a big guy.
Still let him fall on you.
He did. I put him in guard, and then I went to triangle, and I couldn't get my legs around him. I actually, in guard with my legs, I couldn't. My feet were like screaming, like. But that's how big these guys get. So the super heavy's a little more. It's milder, and they don't try to smash you and stack you every chance they get. It's a little more jiu-jitsu.
What's your ranking right now? You still doing that?
Right now, since I moved to Masters 5. I turned 50 last year. So I'm in a new division, so all that stuff went away. I was in the top 5 or top 10 in Masters 4 purple, but now I think I'm in the top 25 maybe or 50.
That's good.
Because I've only done 2. I did I did Atlanta and I got a silver in my division, and then last 2 weeks ago I went to Austin and I got double gold. So that was good. It was a good finals match against a good super heavy who actually does ultra, but he went down to super heavy. I'm not sure why, but
at blue you were number 1 in the world, right?
White and blue. Yeah. So that's the goal again. I'm going to try to get to number 1 in the world in purple. Keep it going.
Excited for you, man. That's amazing. Well, I know when we were competing, our first competition together,
and in-house.
Yeah. I got there. I was ready. I saw you walking through the crowd, tallest guy, boom, boom, and you had to cut down from 230 to 215.
Yeah, went to 215.
So you were shredded, but you weren't. Yeah, you were
lean.
Yeah, you were lean. So it was exciting. I remember I trained with Clay.
Yeah.
Who's our mutual friend Trey Clay's from our gym. Yeah. He's supposed to come on here at some point.
Is he? He needs to get.
I love
on
him.
Here.
He's
got a great story. He's from the same. He grew up in the same town I did, Baker.
Really? I didn't know that.
So yeah, me and Clay's brother Chris were like best buddies. I mean, we grew. All the boys in Baker kind of hung out together. We always had that stigma. Those Baker boys. Excuse me, but Clay was Clay's younger brother. We'd rode bikes together, skateboards, and funny stories. I'd go to Clay's mom's house, ride my bike over there, get Chris on the handlebars, or one of us would switch. Chris was actually a bigger kid than I was. Very small growing up, like tiny. I think 9th grade I might have been. I think I told you this, like 5'9", 105 pounds.
That's crazy. Well, Clay tells me I'm going to the competition. I'm 6'2", 195 or whatever, and then. I said, Clay, this guy's like much bigger than me. And, Clay, he's ultra, whatever.
Yeah.
Clay doesn't have a neck. He's just this big
huge
monster guy. So, but they're like the kindest person you'll ever meet. So anyway, he's like, all right, he's like, they won't expect this. He said, grab his lapel with both of your hands. And he said, just yank down on it as hard as you can. And he's going to, when he breaks forward, just yank for 2 more times, 2 big yanks and get him off balance and moving forward, whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So we get out there. I grabbed your lapel and I did everything I had. I yanked it and you didn't even move for a minute. You didn't even move an inch.
Yeah.
And I was like, And I pulled guard, and we fell on the ground next? And rolled around.
Then we rolled
for
around for 5 minutes.
It was the longest 5 minutes of my life.
I was grunting and sweating. I was like, oh my gosh, when we finished, I was
brutal.
Everybody was yelling. Y'all had the whole Ascension gym just there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like how many people? I had a couple of Mandeville people.
Yeah, I remember like, all right, I did a scissor sweep, and then you kind of fell over, and then you just pop back up. Like you just use your elbow to lift your whole body back.
Oh man,
my good Lord. And then I got almost a flower sweep, and it started going, and you're like, nope. And I was like, oh Lord.
Yeah, that was still a good one to this day. And that actually, what's funny is I had just started probably 3 months before that. So what happened is I was finishing up volleyball, playing in the qualifiers and AVP, and playing on higher level tournaments around the country, and so it was coming to an end, and I knew it. I was 44 then. And so I was like, no, 45.
And that was pro volleyball?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this will beach volleyball.
Beach volleyball.
So I was like, I knew that I was exiting one door, and I didn't think jiu-jitsu was going to be the next door. But, I got Soren in jiu-jitsu, and the reason we got him in was 2 years before was because he was getting bullied at school. Sweet kid, Soren, he's a big kid, sweet. And some kids were picking on him. They were picking on him at school. And so then one day, these kids were coming around saying they were going to come to my house, a gated neighborhood in Mandeville. We're going to come to your house. I was like, nah, that's not going to happen. So we put him in jiu-jitsu. He was in there for a good little while. And I would go and watch him. I was sitting there watching him and stuff. Even I'd do my volleyball in the morning and in the evening. And his 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock classes would come around. I'd take him, or Angelique would take him. And he loved it. He had a blast, like all the little kids that are 4 or 5 years old. So 5, 6, 7, about 7 years old, those kids on the bus, I guess they got back to the same school. They started doing the same thing. And this time he said, yeah, come to the house. And dude, we got it on video. Soren's older brother was there. He videoed it. It was like 15, 20 seconds. Kid pushes Soren. Now they're bigger because they're older. Pushes Soren, goes to get him. Soren does he tackles Soren. Soren sits out, gets his back, rear naked chokes him. And you can see the kid, he's yelling, and the other 2 kids aren't getting in there. And Soren goes, tap. And you can hear him in the video. And the kid was like probably clueless as to what tap meant. And Soren was like, do you give? And he's like, I give. And Soren didn't let go of him. And then he let go and threw him down. And 3 days later, they were trading Pokemon cards at the house.
That's good.
So, but it was still self-defense. And then I think he's used it to protect that same. Bryce was his name. And him and Bryce are like best buds now. And then a while back, just recently, some older teenage kids, I guess 13, 14, at the front of the neighborhood, they've got basketball courts and a pool and stuff like that. These kids were picking on him, and Soren was like, hey, man, leave us alone. Now, Soren is a much bigger 11-year-old. I mean, he's 5'4", maybe pushing 5'5", 140 pounds. But, from jiu-jitsu and soccer and basketball and baseball, and he's a good athlete. He's like his mom, good athlete. This kid went at Soren, and he went to push him, and Soren double-legged him, picked him up. You should have heard the kids, Soren's friends, talk about it. They were like, it was awesome, like a movie. I'm like, I'm sure it wasn't that serious. Like, he double-legged him. Soren said he put him down, took side control, got him, and it's like, leave us alone. Kid got up I guess his ego was hurt, bruised ego, and they left him alone.
I love that. I love jiu-jitsu for kids.
Yeah.
I think young men, and what you realize is when you learn to fight and you're around those people,
yes,
they're the kindest people. It's like the good guy. They're like, it's the good guys that are the protectors, and they get this skill set not to hurt other people, but protect themselves and to protect other people. And it gives them so much confidence. And they're the best young people. Yes, sir. No, sir. But I mean, they're just the best young people in the world. I would tell every parent, and the confidence they get from it.
That's the thing. It's the confidence. Like there's since I coach basketball, I mean, I've helped Angelique coach soccer, and I coach football, or I coach volleyball. That's the biggest sport I coach. But even with Soren and his friends, I've had some come and start jiu-jitsu, and within 6 months, that's the biggest compliment I'll get. My son or my daughter's confidence is through the roof. I was like, well, yeah, because they know that they can defend themselves if something was to happen. It's just like with us. I mean, look, I grew up in, like I said, I was born in Lafayette. Tell me
about growing up. You have a very inspiring story and ultimate success story.
Yeah.
So I usually like to highlight the person and then go back and see how they got there. But I think it would be fun if you just took us through your childhood was not easy. Would you say that?
No, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I know friends of mine where I grew up, and Clay can tell you this. We got friends of ours that probably had it worse. I mean, but I grew up. I was born in Lafayette, Louisiana. So that's where my roots start. We lived in Abbeville. My dad passed away when I was around 3. Probably, I think 4 days before my birthday. Birthday is October 27th. He passed away on the 23rd. So funny story out of that is my mom, I guess after we had his funeral. And I do remember his funeral at 4 years old. I remember going to the coffin. I remember having jewelry and stuff around his hands. And, I guess something a kid doesn't ever want to see. But I had to sit front row at my father's funeral. He was actually killed by a drunk driver. So that's one reason. I mean, I did drink a little growing up, but that's why after Seth was born, and he's 22 now, I stopped drinking. And I always had a conviction about it. I mean, I hate to say it, but I'd rather when I went out, I would prefer not to drink. That was a part of it. Not to mention I didn't want to feel like crap the next day, because just like us in Louisiana, we don't just drink sociably. Most of us, we drink until we get blacked out drunk, and then who knows what happens then. But after that, my mom moved to Greenwood. Well, she moved to basically Central. We lived in these apartments, Fox Hill, and then we lived there for a couple of years. I went to Lanier Elementary. She met my stepdad, Philip. They got married, and that's when things got a little difficult. I mean, I was probably 5 or 6. I was in that range, and so my older brother was 5 years older than me. My younger brother wasn't born, but Philip had bad anger issues. So at a young age, 5 and 6, he was physically and verbally abusive to me and my mom. He did with John a little bit, maybe because John was older. I don't know. But he was physically abusive. And I'm sure as a kid, I was probably not the easiest person to deal with. But I mean, as a grown man, you don't ever put your hands on a child. Not to mention having to see my mom get physically abused, and him saying, some of us sometimes blaming it on us, that it was our fault. I'm like, as a kid, but she got pregnant. She had my younger brother, who's 8 years. So it was about 3 years of that. So she got pregnant, had my younger brother, Aaron. And then we moved from Port Allen. That's where his family was from, to Central. Right up there off of Mustang Road, I remember. And we lived in that house for a few years, and then they split. And this is when it kind of got financial. I think I was in 6th grade. I went to Family Christian, as I told you, 4th and 5th grade at Jimmy Swaggart's school. And then we went to Bethany my 6th grade year and 7th grade year. But my mom, they got divorced. He left and went out of state, and she stayed in that house until it went to foreclosure. And after that, we must have moved around a dozen times until I graduated, because she didn't pursue a job as much at that time, because she had 3 boys. Aaron was an infant. I was in 6th grade maybe. My brother was graduating. He was getting to graduate. So we moved to Baker, Louisiana. And that's when I met, and I grew up there until I graduated. And we didn't have, but the good thing was we didn't have to deal with him anymore. So that made life easier. But then she ran away from it. Like, I think she moved away, and he didn't know where we were for almost 2 years. As a father myself, I've questioned her and talked with her about it. I was like, what were you doing? But she was protecting us from him, in a sense, I guess,
Okay.
but by her doing that, there was no financial support. And so, she was raising 3 boys. Like I said, we lived in this off of Groom Road in these duplexes. I shared a room with my mom and my younger brother, my older brother, I guess, being a junior, maybe a senior. He stayed in the other room. But I mean, this was like an 800 square foot duplex. It was in Baker, so it's a low socioeconomic place anyway.
Sure.
But where we lived, not many white people in the neighborhood. But hey, back then, I didn't think much of it. I mean, my biggest thing was I was going to play basketball every day. I went and hung out with my friends, like Clay's little brother, Jamie Mansell, Jason.
So you hung out with Clay?
I didn't hang out with Clay. He was older. He's my brother's age.
Okay.
But I would go say to pick up Chris on my bike, and Big Clay would be hanging out. Now Clay was a stud too. That dude was like a stud football player in the '80s. Like, when he was in high school. Chris was actually a really good baseball player. But we hung out. I hung out with I would say maybe you can say a wrong crowd with me, Chris, just a bunch of guys, everybody. We just grew up. We were a bunch of knuckleheads. I mean, we didn't come from much. What we did, we had fun doing what we did, but we rode bikes, ran around, vandalized and stuff. Just normal activities for kids, I guess. And from Baker, and
you had lost your dad. I guess. How old was your dad when he was
29. Wow. Yeah, he was actually a Vietnam vet too, and he had actually gotten shot in Vietnam. Crazy story. My grandmother
Purple Heart?
Rome. My real last name is Rome. It's not Ledig. It's actually Rome. But when my mom got remarried, he adopted us. A blessing and a curse, I guess. But I not having a father figure. I'll say this to this day is that's one reason I'm such a big proponent of being a father to my children. Is I didn't have one. I didn't have somebody to tell me what what I needed to do, or I did have people tell me what I needed to do, but me at that age, I was like, I don't want you telling me anything. You're not my dad, or And then of course I hate to say this, but some adults are hypocritical, So I would see what they would do, and then they would tell me this. I was like, why are you telling me to do this, but not you? And I'm not just saying from a church standpoint. I'm just talking about life in general.
Yeah.
So I got to 8th grade, 9th grade. Pulled out of Bethany. They wanted me to stay to play basketball. I was actually taking the trash out, mopping the floors and everything to pay my tuition, and I was going to play basketball to have like a small scholarship. But it was it was embarrassing.
So your stepdad, do you feel like maybe he treated you differently than he treated your brother, who was, I guess, his real kid?
Oh, absolutely. Which I mean, let's be honest. It's probably not the hardest thing to do. I mean, he wasn't very involved per se, at a young age. I played basketball. I probably didn't play organized basketball until I was like 6th or 7th grade. Nothing spectacular, but I mean, I had the same personality that I always have. Like if I'm going to do something, it's going to be 110%.
Yeah. Did you get in trouble as a kid?
Oh God, all the time. Yeah. I mean, but I would do stupid stuff. I would break windows to go play at the gym at Bethany's basketball gym. They would try to blame me, and I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And probably my knuckles were all busted.
Little liar.
Yeah, absolutely. I lied about everything.
Me too. Oh, dude, yes, me too. We would go steal supplies from somebody's house they were building and build as a clubhouse.
Mm-hmm. Where were you boys at? And we were like, oh no, mud all on our shoes from going through a field that we had done the vandalizing people's signs. And I got in trouble a lot.
So you ended up in a boys' home.
Yeah. So freshman year, I went to Baker and then got hung around the same crowd. I wasn't playing sports, and then my mom. I mean, it was rough. I get it. I mean, she was raising 3 boys. My brother had moved away. He moved to Florida by then after he graduated. Went to LSU, then moved away. So just me and my little brother. But still, seeing I didn't listen very well, So she had a rough time. So she sent me to a boarding school, a boys' home called Camp Liberty, and that's where I met Barry Jackson and his family and a few others. And then at that point in time, I was thinking like, this is terrible. Like this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
You lived there, right? That's what it is. You lived there and go to school there, and
okay. Full summers and everything. I couldn't come home but once a month on the weekends. So my friends were like, where are you? I was like, I'm in this hellhole, and I got to be really close with Barry Jackson and his family still to this day. I go to Texas. They have some ranches down there. I'll go hunt with him and I'll go hang out with him. And he knows. And like I have to tell him sometimes. I mean, there was some rough kids in there. Kids that had gotten in for like attempted murder. Kids that had like usually the state would send people there. And so I got sent there because it was probably eventual that something like that would have happened. And who knows, I'd have ended up in some kind of juvenile detention. Just because of the people I hung out with. I didn't have a father figure or a mentor or anybody that, I mean, who's going to just pick up a kid, you know what I mean? It's going to be like, hey, I'll take you under my wing. My mom wasn't dating anybody, so I mean, that wasn't going to happen either. And even if she would have, I probably wouldn't have listened to the person. But I go there, and so that was the first time we had 2 full court basketball courts. Just wanted to stay away from everybody, didn't want to really socialize too much, which I did, but that's never basketball clicked for me. I mean, I was always decent. I was always like, I played on the teams. I would start. I would do this, but that's never I mean, when you're a kid and you're playing basketball 3-4 hours a day by yourself, I didn't need anybody. Then the team started, the people that were at the school, and they started to play with me. We actually got better and better. I was there for almost 2 years. So when I got out as a junior, of course, Bethany wanted me to come back. I went and talked to Coach Green and Coach Mercier, and same thing. They wanted me to do like the bagging trash and sweeping and mopping. I was like, can't do that. I said, maybe I was wrong. I don't know. No, I did. I made the right decision because everything in life comes full circle. But I told him, I said, hey, look, I'm just going to go play at Port Allen. I'm going to go live with my stepdad. He offered me to come over there. And I thought things would be better with him. But in reality, they weren't. I lived there for probably 9 months. By the time school was over, I left, went back to Baker. And then I went to Central Private. Central Private's coach, Eddie Paibiscus, he was putting together a team. asked me to come out there, and they gave me a scholarship, and we had a really good team. I mean, we had, a bunch of guys, me, Mark Galena, Rusty Chapman, probably one of the best white point guards that came out of the. I mean, he played D1 basketball. And that team that we had, I think out of 12 players, I can tell you now that probably 8 or 9 went to go play between D1 and JUCO ball.
That's amazing.
That was awesome. But Eddie Payu Biscuits, he was from Australia. He played for the Olympic team in 1970, came and played at LSU, and then he played for the Atlanta Hawks. Oh, he was awesome.
Nice.
He was actually Shaq's free throw coach.
Really? Huh.
That dude's he was in the Guinness World Book of Records for, I think he's made over 5,000 free throws in a row.
So what stopped you in the basketball?
After that summer, I started working. I was going to go play at Southwest in Mississippi. So I sat out a year or semester, and then I started to approach it back again because I started working out with Coach Hatch and doing some stuff, and I just probably wasn't in the. I don't think mentally I was prepared, and then I ended up talking to Southwest again, and then made the team, and then they had a coaching change. And this guy, Coach McGraw, came in, and he didn't like. I guess he had a different style of play. He wanted different people, and so I was like, he called me in one day after practice. He said, "Hey man, look, we're gonna have to take away a scholarship, and yours is gonna be it, and we're gonna pick up this other kid." And I'm like, "Really?" I was like, "Well, what about what we had signed before with the other coach?" And he was like, "This is my team now." So left there, came back to Baton Rouge. I worked for a little bit, and then I shot up to Dallas, Texas. I was going to go play at North Texas, and I went up there and practiced with those guys for a while and played. And I was going to play before the semester. The summertime came, I got injured really bad, my ankle, and so it was one of those things. I didn't have the money. I mean, nobody was supporting me. I mean, I paid for all of my college throughout all, my degrees and everything, and so I was in Dallas, and I was like, "What do you do?" I mean, my ankle. The doctor was like, "Sometimes it would be better if you broke something, but you didn't." It's just the way my ankle. I was running backwards in practice on this guy, big size, like 17 foot, ankle. My foot turned up, ankle hit the ground. One of those. I mean, they picked me up, put my foot in the orange cooler, got me to the doctor, and I was like, my ankle looked like a grapefruit. So yeah, I was rehabbing it, and by that time, I wasn't gonna get a scholarship because I couldn't play, and I mean I couldn't afford school anyway. So I came back to Louisiana. But before I came back to Louisiana, this lady came to one of our practices, and she was like, "Hey, look, I have a clothing brand, and I need 3 people. I need a white guy, a black guy, and a Mexican." And everybody, coach was like, he goes, "All right." So she came and checked us all out.
Were you the Mexican?
Well, that's the funny story. Coach was like, "Hey, she picked you, and she was athletic," and I'm like, "Okay," and I'm looking, and the other player's blonde haired, blue eyes, and the other guy's black. Perfect. I was like, "Am I the amigo?" And she was like, "Yeah, baby." I said, "I'm not Mexican." She goes, "It doesn't matter." You're my Mexican. So we started laughing about it, and so I did a thing for her, some print work, and then she got me in touch with this agency, Guerin Agency up in Dallas, and it was funny, and I went and met them, and I did some test shoots, and all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, I got some people that are wanting you to do things for them," and I was like, "Hey, truth be told, I'm moving back to New Orleans or Baton Rouge." I said, "I won't be here." So what he did is he got me connected with Tracy Dundas and a few people over in New Orleans and stuff. And she's the one she started New Orleans Fashion Week. So I was in the first New Orleans Fashion Week. But when I got home, I started to do a lot of, me and taller. I was probably 195 at that time, and very, built basketball player.
So was modeling, is that what you were doing there, or were you doing any acting at that point?
Just at that time, it was just modeling. Went to some print work, but I did a lot of runway shows, and I went all over runway shows, New York, Miami, and that was fun. I mean, it was awesome, and then when I came back, and that was kind of short-lived, maybe 2 years at the most, and then whenever I came back from doing a lot of that stuff, that's when that acting and all the movies came into Louisiana, right. Like before Katrina and all that. And just so happened, I went on a casting for a Lindsay Lohan movie, and it was called Just My Luck. And I got selected for a kissing scene with her. So the kissing scene that I had with her was not just with her, it was with Bree Turner too. And so that's when I had that long hair, it was all flowy. And so I first met Lindsay. She was wild too. And we did I had a couple of weeks of filming in different scenes and stuff like that. Even not the main scene I was with her with, like that we had some scenes where we had masks on, and it was fun. And then our scene came up. And, me being a jokester, I was like, hey, I said, after we make out for a while, I said, I'm not going to have like a burning sensation on my lips. She's like, you're an idiot. So I gave her a breast strip, and everybody's watching this. So it kind of broke the ice. Everybody's dying laughing. So I put one in, and I said, let's get to work. So we did that kissing scene. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I'll get you a clip. But like we did that kissing scene for like 3 hours over and over again. I mean, it's just, it's just what it was in the scene. We finally got it done, and I was like, high five. And so, and then that started that. And then there had some other movies like commercials and stuff I had done. And then I got a call, and they were like, hey, we need this, this, and this. And we put you in for it. I was like, well, I was never in the military. And they're like, yeah, we know that. So they were like, but you're a collegiate athlete. You're between 6'2", 6'5", 215, or 220. And I was like, so it's pretty specific. So I go to NASA at Michoud, and there's like 40 guys there. So the lady comes out, and she's like, all right, boys. She's like, take your clothes off. And all of us were like,
were you all the same height, I guess?
Dude, when I tell you, it was the most prototypical thing that you've ever seen. Like, we all started taking our shirts off and our shorts. And I mean, if I had we had underwear on. But dude, everybody was pretty specimen. They were all yoked. Everybody's 6-8 packs, but that's what they wanted. So she was like, you, picked to me, you. She's like, y'all over here. So she picked 12 guys out of 40. She said, the rest of y'all can go home. They had guys that were like, I just flew in from LA for this. I just flew in from Miami for this. And she's like, have a safe flight back. Like, I was like, wow. So they picked us as an elite guard for, it was called, well, actually, the movie wasn't, the name we didn't know at first, but they just told us it was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. And I was like, this is awesome, because that's like two of my heroes growing up in the 80s and 90s. And it ended up being a skate plan. But for like 10 weeks, man, they put us through the ringer. But I had to actually work 2 weeks extra. That's why I told you 12 weeks, because they had to get me ready, these military guys. Because we used real guns, and they actually had not live rounds, but they had like caps and everything. So they taught us all the protocol. Well, they taught me. So like I was running around with the gun, and they made me do this for hours. But they fed me so well, and they paid me. So why am I not going to do this?
Yeah.
So we ended up doing the scenes. We did some scenes on the river, on these barges, and that was brutal because we're in all these black outfits, and like it's hot, but like for 10 hours a day, dude. Same thing over. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's in his helicopter shooting us. We're falling down, and we're doing all this stuff. Got to do some scenes with him. He's the coolest guy ever. I mean, he was just like.
How tall is he?
He's about 6. He's a little shorter than I thought, but dude, he was still jacked up. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's 60-something years old, just yoked. Sylvester Stallone, a little more standoffish, but I get it because people are always like trying to tug on his coattails. But
they were in that time frame too. They were a big movie star.
Oh, bro, yeah, they were massive. And so,
how tall is Sylvester Stallone?
He's short. He's like 5'9". I would say, compared to us.
5'9" normal people.
He's a normal person. You're right. But I mean, his forearm. He carried this stick, and I asked him one day. I was like, "Hey," and he handed it to me. The thing weighed like 50 pounds, and look, he was just like flipping it. His forearms were as big as my biceps. I was like, "Dude, just veiny." He was like, "Yeah," He was. He was a nice guy. I know people give him a bad rap, but then we did one scene with Arnold Schwarzenegger. We got to rough him up. Me and this other guy like push him around. I grabbed his bicep and his arm. I was like, this dude, he's still solid. He was like, I don't know how y'all live down here. This humidity is terrible. I said, that's just South Louisiana for you. So we finished filming that. I kind of went for a few other things. And, they tried to get me to, I went for Twilight to be one of the wolves.
Right.
And so I was like, man, this is going to be awesome. But didn't make the cut. They said, you want to be an extra? I was like, no, I'm not going to Shreveport to film for weeks for $100 a day. Yeah. But that started, that was going down. I was getting a little older. And then I was in engineering school and stuff, so I needed to finish that too. So
you started in engineering school. What time frame was that?
That was probably I started engineering school 2001, somewhere around there. I left. I was at UNO, LSU.
And you supported yourself through all of that?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just working here and there, and being a bouncer in New Orleans at different clubs and stuff on Bourbon Street. That was, so that's how I met Randy Mellerin and them, because I used to date a girl from Chalmette that was at LSU, and that's where Randy and them are from. So that's a funny story. Like when I saw Randy at Jiu Jitsu, it's like another full circle moment. I was like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Man, we just moved from the parish to Baton Rouge.
Randy
and
make
Ascension.
Arnold Schwarzenegger look small.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Randy's just a freak of nature, dude. The way he's built is just not typical. The dude's arms are massive.
Yeah,
I mean,
unlimited
it's fun.
energy.
And then he weighs like 250. I was like, how do you only weigh 215? You look like you weigh 230. But he takes really good care of himself. Hey, man. That's
And when you roll with him, he feels like he weighs 250.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like this crazy dynamic to his body shape, his strength, and everything.
Yeah, he's big in cold plunge. Mm-hmm. Do you still cold plunge?
I do. I don't do it. So I only do it when I'm injured now. I don't do it like every day or like I used to. But I've changed things up even from like my volleyball days, from the things I used to do. I mean, I still do IVs. I do everything I can. I mean, look, I'm not just playing against the sport. I'm also playing against Father Time.
Yeah.
So at 50 now, things are different. I still like to think I can do. Look, I was still able to dunk. I still did my obligatory dunk, and I wasn't what I would call a dunk, but the kids were like, yeah. And I'm like,
that's cool.
That was the weakest
I know
dunk.
you do coach some special ed teams and things like that.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
seeing all of that stuff.
I coach. We have an organization, the Mandeville Mustangs, and so when I was finishing up, around the same time I was starting up the jiu-jitsu, a little before, I approached the Special Olympics and I asked them, me being a past volleyball player, and I said I would like to start a volleyball organization on the North Shore in St. Tammany, Slidell. And they were like, yeah, you put it together, you can do it. Like, they weren't really interested, but I bought a table through my company at that time to one of the luncheons or breakfast. Billy Nungesser was talking, and I actually went to Billy Nungesser and I spoke with him. I said, hey, I'm trying to do this. And I'd ran into him before with some other things. And he said, let me know if you need help. So he was actually integral in helping us get that started. But I had 2 athletes at my table. Anthony was one. Melissa, she's the best assistant coach and just coordinator that I could ever have. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be what we are today. So Melissa, she's worked with special population for a long time, and she actually does that full time. What she does is a blessing, not only to the athletes but to the families as well. And she's just amazing. But she was at the table. I said, hey, Anthony, I said, would you like to play volleyball? I said, have you ever played volleyball? No. I said, would you? Yeah. So there were 5 athletes there. It was Anthony, Cole, Wayne. Who else was there? I'm trying to look at the picture that we have. But I had 5 players. I said, you guys want to play beach volleyball? Indoor volleyball. I said, I'll coach you. And I had actually, Special Olympics asked me to bring some of my jiu-jitsu medals, like the ones when I won the Europeans and I won the International Masters and the North American Masters. So I brought them, and I was showing the athletes, and they were like, I said, put them on, we'll take a picture. Billy Nungesser took a picture with us, and then that's how we started the organization. So that year, we started practice with 7 players, and then now we have over 71 players, athletes, and coaches that show up. And when I tell you, we've won the state championship twice. We got a bronze the last event. Special Olympics, they stopped volleyball. So what I did is we kept the name the Mandeville Mustangs, which was actually selected by the original 5. I said, hey guys, I said, what do y'all want to be? You got a mascot? We're a team, and the Mustangs came up. I guess one of them was a Broncos fans, but they picked the Mustangs. And I was like, Mandeville Mustangs, the Mighty Mustangs, I'm trying to. And so Anthony and Jay, it was Jay. Jay was the actual 5th one. Him, Cole, and Anthony were like Mandeville Mustangs. So that's how the name was. So they picked it. So to them, it's near and dear to their heart, which is awesome to me. They picked the colors, the blue and the orange. I think they got that from Denver, but we did that. And then over these years, these athletes, we've gotten more and more athletes, but I coach these athletes like they are 12 to 20-year-old volleyball players. Now, you have a broad spectrum, and you have kids with Down syndrome. Well, they're not even kids because most of them are adults. We coach them like kids. And the improvement that we've seen over these years, and we've got new coaches in. I've even had other volleyball coaches that have coached me, like Danny Tullis. He was one of my first coaches. He's the coach for Slidell. I think he's going to be at Mandeville now, but he's won back-to-back indoor championships for Slidell these past 2 years. So he's come and helped me. I've had people from all over. I've had other pro players come and help me, and they love what they see. You've seen the videos, and
I love that so much. It looks like you love that.
Oh,
also.
I love it. I've talked to the parents, and they always thank me for that. I was like, oh no. Thank you for allowing me or trusting me to be here, because what they've done for me is opened my eyes. I've even gotten I got backlash when I first started. Like, you don't have a special population or special needs child. I was like, I don't. I was like, the only time that I was ever around special population was whenever I dated my girlfriend in high school, Cherie Parker, from Central Private. I said she had 2 cousins that had Down syndrome. And that, I mean, I was always, I think it's a blessing, but special population and dogs, they love me. So I'll take it. You know what I mean? So I used to interact with them. I went to one Special Olympics thing with her. And I always knew that it was a cool thing. What's odd is I had a preacher come to me in 2018. And I'll never forget this. He wanted to have dinner, and he said, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something." And of course, I was like, "Well, what's that?" His name was Eric, and Eric was he's a pastor and a deacon in Mississippi, and he knows me from volleyball. And he said, "Look, I've had these visions, and you're going to be leading a congregation one day." And I was like, "I'm never going to be a preacher." I said, "I'm going to tell you that right now." And I wasn't trying to be abrasive or rude. I said, "It's just not me." I said, I've been around religion for a long time in my life. I was at Bethany. We'd go to church 4 times a week. It's a bit much, And he was like, "Well, I'm not saying it's going to be a church, but you're going to do some things for a congregation or a population it's going to be fulfilling for you." And I was like, "Thanks, Eric." I was like, "I'll buy you dinner." Look, we went to Felipe's. That's where we're eating. Never forget it. Like I can see it clear as day. We're sitting down, and I just told him, I said, "Hey, I appreciate you coming to me and you telling me this." I said, "But I guess I'm going to politely disagree." I said, "Because I don't really see myself doing anything like that. I'm playing this, I'm playing that, I'm doing this, I'm raising kids." And then 5, 6 years later, look what starts. And then now it's 2026. Look what we have. And then it was just a realization one day. I said, this is what Eric was talking about. He's talking about this. And so now the Mandeville Mustangs, I've even spoken to the National Special Olympics group with Tim Shriver. I actually have some meetings with his office with a lady out of Arkansas coming up soon, which will be an amazing thing for the team, but also for Louisiana. And so if that's what it is, it's a blessing to me. What they've done for me as a person, I don't think I could ever repay them. You know what I mean? It's what I get to see from people like Aaron Rhodes, and I mean, he's an amazing athlete. Abby, I can name all of my athletes, and I can tell you what they've given to me or what they've shown me. It's a lesson learned every practice, and it's amazing. It's amazing that that now they've got, through technology, they can actually stop Down syndrome if through the CRISPR programs and stuff. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know. It's a disability to some, but I was like, I don't know if that's the right thing to do. Now, everybody can make their own decision. I'm one of those people, don't tell another person how to live their life. Sure. But I can tell you what I've learned from all these athletes is they're special for a reason,
It's beautiful, Shawn, dude. Looking at your stories and all, I could tell it's something you just really love, and that you can tell those kids love you too.
I have passion for them. I love each and every single one of them. And so, the passion's there. So we finished up for the year. We do have an award ceremony. The St. Tammany parish president, he contacted me, and they're going to write a proclamation, and they're going to get some awards on April 9th. So if anybody wants to come out, it's going to be off of Coop Drive, St. Tammany, 6:00. We've got like 47 RSVP'd athletes and coaches. So even past coaches. This is everybody that's ever been in the Mandeville Mustangs under the umbrella. They're coming out, and they're going to get these awards. We're going to have the advocate there. I think Channel 17 out of Hammond's going to try to be there. So, and this is all experiences that I want to give to these athletes. Like, it's been brought up to me too. They're like, "Oh, this is for your own personal gain." I was like, man, I said, I've already been in the spotlight doing sports and traveling the world and doing this. I said, this is awesome. I said, but this is an experience for them that they may never have had, Yeah. So, and just like you see what Tim Tebow does, we had his night to shine about a month ago, and that was awesome. Those athletes and I danced so hard for like hours. My shirt was soaked. I had to go stand by the water jug for like 20 minutes. They're like, "Coach, you coming?"
Is there any video of this dancing?
Yeah,
because you don't drink either. So
no, I don't drink.
The next day you can't be like, "I don't even remember what."
I remember everything, and we had. I'm going to get you some video so you can put it on here, even of me. I mean, I was just kind of hipping, but the athletes, they were getting down, and it's awesome because you get to see this. And if you're not around the special population, everybody has their stigmas, and they think this and they think that. It's not what it is. I mean, the one thing I can say about the special population athletes that I work with is their spirit. It's amazing. Like well, first off, their intuition of a person is absolutely amazing, because we've had people come in and go that, you know, for coaching and stuff, and if their spirit isn't in right, the athletes won't go to them.
Pick up on that, huh?
Yeah, like I had one of my girls, she's very sensory. So I've always had, you know, and you got to be careful on how you approach it. I mean, now they all come and hug me like with a group hug. So, but at first, you know, even with the parents, I was like, look, take your time. This isn't anything that you got to rush into. I know you guys think I'm crazy that I'm even trying to teach a sport like volleyball to y'all as athletes. I said, but they can do it. And Erica, one day she just, I guess the wall was busted. She came and gave me a big hug, and I'm like, I'm looking at her mom. I'm like, D. She's like, hug her back. I'm like, you know, and she's like, I love you, coach. And I was like, love you too. So that's the kind of moments that prove to me, like, hey, this is what you're meant for. This is a calling on your life, you know, and it doesn't have, it's not spiritual, religious. Spiritual it is, but religious it's not. I don't care what church you go to. I don't care who you call God. I don't care. And I'm like that with everybody. You know, it's like, I hope you believe in something, because the universe itself shows us that there is a higher power, whatever you call them, him, her, them, they, I don't know. I don't want to go into that, but it's like, it's there. Just, I hope you focus on it. I hope you believe in it. But we've had a good 5 years, and we're going to keep it going strong. We're working with some other nonprofits for next year. And so they want to come on board, but we're going to keep doing what we're doing. So
love that, man. I'm proud of you, and proud to know someone like you too. That's amazing.
Look, really, you need to actually come to a practice.
I will. I would definitely.
You come
will. Check
that out. And I've had parents, and I've had other people. I've had some businesses come, and I'm like, hey, just sit in the back and watch what you think. And if you want to donate, and if you want to, you know, assist, because I mean, 70-something jerseys, not cheap. You know what I mean? Rental space for gyms, not cheap.
Do you have a link, something where people can donate who would want to support this?
We don't have it. We're not yet. So that's coming up probably towards the end of the year. But we do have our Instagram page at the Mandeville Mustangs.
The Mandeville Mustangs. I'll put the link in the bio. If somebody wants to reach out to Mandeville Mustangs, you have a way they could maybe support and help with that effort.
And we're getting to that. We're trying to merge with another nonprofit.
I see.
And so, because you know, there's a lot. There are all technicalities to it, and there's a lot of stuff that you got to deal with. But it's going to be taken care of. So next year we'll be on our 6th year.
That's exciting, Shawn. Well, shifting gears a little bit, you're obviously a natural entrepreneur. So you play volleyball, you know, sports, acting, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you're hard in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu right now. Yeah. You got any injuries? Are you healthy right now?
Actually, no, injury free.
Me too.
I mean, for once, you know, you remember, I mean, I popped my, so far in volleyball, I was playing volleyball. I tore my pec, my bicep, and my tendons, but that's because I was climbing a pegboard wall with a bunch of young kids. And then one of the kids asked me something. I turned this way and pop. So I had to work hard. That's when Cameron Beans and I were playing together. We broke the top 100. I mean, we were on our way. We were cruising up there. I think we ended up as 32nd eventually in the country as teams. You know, those are the pro teams that played on the AVP. And then the first tournament was New York, 2018, or I believe it was, or 2017 or something. And our first match was all hyped up, and I was like, why is everybody work? Because we were on center court on the pier in New York, and we're playing Ricardo Santos and Cam Shaw, they're both Olympians, one for Brazil, one for. We actually were beating them 17 to like 13, and everybody started chanting USA, and they just turned it up a notch, and that's why they're Olympians, and they beat the brakes off of us. But it was an awesome experience, you know. Me and Ricardo, he's, you know, Brazilian gold medalist. Me and him keep in touch with each other. He's in Florida now. He trains jiu-jitsu. So when he started seeing me going around the world and competing, he was like, he loves it. So when I see him, he's like a big 6'8" monster. He tries to attack me. I was like, get off me, man.
Yeah, dude.
I was like, you big ultra heavy.
Yeah, I see. I don't train a lot of jiu-jitsu, and maybe it's good. Now we have Olympic gold medal volleyball professionals getting into it.
And what's awesome is, you know, Kristen Nuss, who I've watched her grow up. She played for LSU, but she's from New Orleans. So her and Taryn, I watched Taryn when she first started playing beach volleyball. She came to Louisiana during COVID, and Taryn Cloth, I mean, she's been married since, but she actually started practicing out at Diggs where we trained at, me and the other guys that were, you know, higher level players. COVID had hit too, so that's the only place we could go. We couldn't go play anywhere else because of all
I miss
the rules.
jiu-jitsu so much. I definitely get so much out of it. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain to anyone what you really get out of it. It's suffering. It's voluntarily putting yourself through something really difficult.
It
but
sucks.
It's like it's like the ultimate truth about yourself.
Oh,
you can't lie to yourself in there, dude.
No. I tell people that all the time. It's addictive is what it is. And then if you don't do it, like, we've trained, me and you have both been there. We've trained 5-6 days a week. Sometimes I was training 5 days a week, twice a day. I had to minimize that because I'm trying to work out and stuff. I'm like, dude,
my ribs trying to roll out of bed, drag yourself in the sauna.
Yeah.
Army crawl into the sauna.
Wrapped up. And so, but it does. And like I said, it's such a good sport. I mean, sport, but it's also an activity or hobby, whatever you want to call it. But like you said, it lets you know real quick who you really are. Like, when they have those big swole up CrossFit guys come in there and they're talking trash and you're like, sign the waiver, dude. And they get hemmed up. And I'm usually not the first one to hem them up. We'll let the smaller guys go at them. And then their egos are just deflated. I was like, now it's my turn, big boy. And so like some of them never come back. Of course, you got crazy people like Guy. When I got big Guy to start, I was like, come on, man, come on. And Guy, of course, first time Guy was like getting choked out. And he's like, I love it. I was like, you're crazy. But Guy loves it. He's been one of my best jiu-jitsu buddies over there in Mandeville for a long time. And he's had some injuries, but man, I love being able to see people that I introduced into the sport that are still in the sport. Cause really after a blue belt, a lot of people fade away. And so, that first year, the hardest thing is getting on that mat for the first time.
Yeah.
That's it. And then I know it sucks, but you can do anything for a couple of months. And then when you get closer and closer to that blue belt, you're just itching for it and you get it. And it's a huge accomplishment, but you just realize like I'm 1/5 of the way of where I want to be.
Yeah. It's an ego killer for sure.
It is.
Like Sonya. So Clay's wife, Sonya.
Yeah.
So she was one of the ones that I rolled with when I first got there.
Yeah.
And I was helpless. And I mean, I was at the time I was fairly fit, 195, 6'2", good. I mean, I felt good and all that. And I said, I'll probably do okay. And I didn't have a huge ego. I tried to go in there and be as humble as I could.
Yeah.
But she humbled me way more. And I started off like, this is a woman, I'll take it easy. And so I started off easy, and it was like 30 seconds. She threw up some triangle choke or something, and I had to tap out. And she tapped me out and every time I kept getting, I was like, all right, well, let me get a little more serious. And it didn't matter how serious I got. She understood the angles and the leverage, and I was helpless. Skill. And I said, this is something remarkable. I just knew then. I'm like, this little one. Sorry, Sonya, I was like, wait, 120. I'll say 100 pounds, Sonya, just to be polite. But she rolled me up, and I said, this is unbelievable. And I started doing it, like you said, 3-4 months into it. I'm like, well, I'm just getting beat up so badly. And I even messaged Robbie. I said, Robbie, I don't know if this is for me. I said, whatever wires connect my brain to my body must not have a good connection or whatever. Because I said, I lose all the time. And then he sent me this book, and it was basically about just defending yourself and the incremental growth, the 1%. And so I changed the game from me being about winning to let me see how long that I can survive. And I just worked on my defense. Worked on my defense. It's like, wow, look, you know what? It usually took them 30 seconds to beat me. And I gave this example of Sonya, but everyone beats you up. When you go to jiu-jitsu, you'll meet everyone in the whole room beats you up easily.
You're the nail.
You're the nail. They're wrecking you. Your ribs hurt, your neck, everything hurts.
Yeah.
But then I said, then I made it where it took them a minute to beat me, and that was my victory.
That's right.
And then the next time it took them 2.5, and then and they were struggling to beat me, and that was the victories that kept me going. Yeah. And then one day, like you said, you look back, this new guy walks in the gym, and then he feels like a child. You're like, what? He's not doing. You see it, and you actually are growing into it. So it's really special.
And when you get to be the hammer for that first time, you're like, oh, kind of Conor McGregor around, but then you go to a brown belt or a purple belt, and they destroy you again. You're like, okay. But then you realize, and it's so funny because, so I grew up in Baker. Dude, we used to fight each other for fun, seriously. And it sucked. And I had an older brother. So 5 years older. So my older brother and his friends, all the way from even Port Allen to Baker, they beat the brakes off of me in a loving way, I guess you want to say it. Like, my brother was never mean to me. I loved him. He cared for me, took care of me, but they still beat me up and did stupid stuff. And I would go climb a tree, we'd go skinny dipping in the water, and they'd take my clothes and run away. I had to run back to the house butt naked. Like, come on, man. And they were, laughing and stuff. My mom was like, what are you doing? I was like, well, we were going to go swimming in the river, and they took my clothes. And she's like, you're an idiot. So you grow up with older brothers, you can at least defend yourself in somewhat. And then, of course, like I said, I used to bounce at like the Cajun Hall and Texas Club. And I get kicked out of Texas Club like half a dozen times. And then finally like, hey, you just want to work for us? We're tired of like kicking you out of here. And I was like, man, why not make money to do something like that? Went to New Orleans, bounced on Bourbon Street. I bounced at other clubs and stuff like that. But it was easy money, and I was also doing some doorman stuff. And then I started party promoting, which was wild. That's a whole nother part of my life. But it kept me paid. I got to do that while I was modeling and stuff and while I was in college. So it was like easy to do this, that, and the other. And it was kind of keeping me busy. But that's why, but even then, I think now, like what I know, I couldn't defend myself. Look, in 25, I'll even admit it. I was a specimen. I stopped playing basketball. So I'd probably gotten up to say 235, 40 even, but I was like ripped, and I was just like, all I did was work out 5-6 days a week. I was like a muscle head. And so Angelique asked me, she said, what would you do? I said, I don't know if I'd want to approach my 25-year-old self, which I wouldn't do that anyway. I was never a starter. I was always a defender, which is good, a protector. But I was like, I don't know if I'd want to, but if that 25-year-old came at me, I'd hem him up. And she's like, no way. I said, oh yeah. I said, you realize like what you thought you knew? And these guys were like, I see red. I'm like, dude, that's just, you're going to see black because you're going to choke out. I was like, I'm going to choke you out. But I've heard that phrase so many times. You don't know when I get mad. I'm like, dude, it's when you're not mad is the scary thing.
Yeah. Chef opened his Highland Road gym and I went visit there and they had a whole bunch of like the rugby team, LSU rugby, these 20-year-olds. And it was like, then you realize the superpower of jiu-jitsu because you're using basically no energy, and these guys they're putting they're 100% into it, and you're winning these fights. And so you're like, all right, this is crazy.
Cool. And then you can tell which ones their ego won't let them get over that hump. And you got the out of 10, they're usually 2, and they're like, I got to learn this. I was like, and then I tell people, look. If you ever tap, I've tapped black belts out or brown belts. Number one, they're probably 20 years older than me, so just physically I've got that advantage. But I was like, and they're probably letting me play with them. Because I can tell you now, after I got my blue belt, Rafael, gave me my blue belt in 11 months. We both went to blue belt pretty quick,
No, it took me a while.
Well,
it took me
that's
like a year
right. You
and a
got
half.
yours in the New Orleans tournament after you won it. I remember that. That's when I flew in from Europe. Remember, I won the Europeans, and then I won in New Orleans, and then you got your blue belt, and I was like, yes. So
we both got a gold medal that day.
I love celebrating everything.
I have a picture of you and I standing there wearing a gold medal. That was cool. That was a cool moment.
That story was crazy. I come in from Europe, just winning that tournament, and then our flight got delayed in Atlanta, of course, Delta, and then we had to stay the night. Angelique lost her purse in the Uber. I went in a cab to some freaking neighborhood in Atlanta, dude, knocking on the door. Probably should have gotten shot, but to get her purse, brand new purse. We had just bought her like in Europe. And so I was like, I'll get it, Angelique, I'll get it. So we finally fly in. When I got to the airport, I went straight to the Pontchartrain Center. Dude, it was just like, but it was awesome. And then, of course, you won, and then you got your blue belt. I was like, look at this guy. So, but, I mean, it is a superpower. But thinking, circling back, it's like when after I got my blue belt, that first practice back to Hammond is Saturday. So we did the 10 rolls, you know what I mean? The first 5 rolls were black belts. They beat the brakes off of me. And then I got a brown belt and a purple. I was salivating for another blue belt or another white belt. The last 3 rolls, I just had to take it out on them. But I felt defenseless against black belts.
I still do now.
Yeah.
I still do now.
It's like, especially when they've been we see a lot of in the U.S., a lot of black belts that are like 1, 2 years, 3. Like Eric Raposa, who is my professor and coach now. These guys in Rafael, they've been black belts for over 20 years. It's like they've seen everything. They've done everything. And those two are, they're great. They've done great things for the sport, both of them. But Eric is who I train under now because I left one for the other because of more of a competition. I mean, we have I mean, at Eric's in Slidell, we have 11 world champions at that small gym.
I've seen Raposa compete, and that guy's unbelievable.
I mean, he's still doing that. I mean, he's been competing. He's been doing jiu-jitsu since he's like 14. And
rolling with a black belt, they feel like they're almost like wizards. When they have an extra arm or two, like they have magic. An extra arm somewhere hidden or leg that pops out and is able to help. Yeah,
it's absolutely, it's magic. But look, I mean, the way I'm looking at things right now, my first purple belt competition year was last year. I won all the international opens, the smaller tournaments, but when I got to the 3 majors, every time I lost in the quarters. I didn't podium, and that had never happened. Like I said, I just won my 55th IBJJF medal in Austin, 42 golds, 12 silvers. So my winning percentages has been pretty doggone good. And so, and I don't take that lightly. I mean, look, number one, I give all the credit to you. And I've told you that before, because if it wasn't for you, you know what I mean? I mean, you were there, you were the first one, and you were there. And that lit a fire under my butt. And I was like, this is awesome. You know, we weren't as good of friends then. And I was like, man, I'm pretty sure that's a nice guy. You know, and then we do get to meet each other. I was like, he's got to be cool. He's got a beautiful wife. You know what I mean? So Angelique was just like, oh man, he said, that was a good time. But it's, ever since then, but I tell this to everybody that I compete with all around the world. I was like, thank you. Like, you're part of this journey with me, and it's not going to finish anytime soon. I think I'm slated, if I win the world title again in December, you know, I've got Masters Worlds in Vegas, August, September, and then the No-Gi Worlds, which I won in 2024, the world title. I'll probably go for my brown belt. So it'll be, after 5 years, I'll be a brown belt. And then I don't really want to just jump into a black belt, because then competition-wise, remember, then there's everybody's been black belts for 1 or 40 years, you know, 30 years. And so that's a scary thought, to think of how much if you say I make a black belt within 7 years, then you got to go against somebody that's been a black belt for over 20. You know, the knowledge and the skill and the time that they put into it, especially now you got like Xander and all these guys that are coming back, that they were world champions in their 20s, and now they're coming to do Masters 3, 4, and 5. And you're like, oh my God, that'd be like Roger Gracie coming in and showing up at one of the IBJJF. I mean, not that he's ever going to do that, because I mean, he's the GOAT, 10 world titles as an adult. But you're seeing these high level guys come back as a master now, and you're like, Eric Raposa's won. He's won the world title. He's won everything multiple times, but now he's in like Masters 3. And like, I've seen guys in the pit, they're like, oh, it's an honor to I can't wait to roll with you. It's like, you're screwed. I was like, you know, but Eric, it's awesome to be with him, because first off, he's you know, my game was smash and pass and all that other stuff, which I'm pretty good at it. I mean, you know, won everything for the first 3 years. Then I don't think I lost for the first 2, which, when you do lose, it's good. You know, I mean, it's humbling and you need it. But like, he's taught me, you know, I pull guard. I'm 6'5", 230. I pull guard. I play open guard. I do all that. You know, Randy's another one that does it too. You do it. I mean, but a lot of the people our size, or they didn't do that. So he's taught me that side of the game. So if it's more comfortable to, if I get put in, you know, if I get put on my back, I'm fine.
Yeah. If
I stand up and do judo, I'm fine. But to watch him, because he leads by example. I mean, there's not a tournament that I go to that he's not there. So first off, I get to watch him first. That just hypes me up. And then my matches come, and he's there coaching me, and he knows my game, you know, like he knows it like the back of his hand, because we do have an actual competition team, you know. So
I love that.
But it's an awesome. You know, I hope you do get back into it sooner.
Yeah, dude, I want to come to Europe with you and see all that stuff.
Me and Angelique are talking about going to Brazil, because I know, and I will say it here, I know that I can win that sucker. You know, I've gotten a silver in Brazil.
Brazil has some killers down there.
They do. I mean, Pan Americans here in Orlando is pretty tough. But Brazil, what's cool about Brazil is the crowd. You know, last year, I mean, I've been a couple times, and no matter what, man, whenever I'm winning or whatever, they support me. I mean, they know I'm an American.
Yeah.
That first year, they thought I was Brazilian. Like, Angelique texted me. She's like, why do they have, like, in the, you know, on flow grappling, she's like, why do they have the Brazilian flag by your name? I said, maybe they think I'm Brazilian. So we did that. But yeah, you definitely need to come. Portugal was awesome. That last Europeans, I mean, I ran, you know, like I said, it was my first purple belt tournament, and I ran into the third-ranked guy in the world. Beautiful match. He's a stud. They own a gym in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. His wife's a black belt. So he's in it, but he was really good. He actually won the division, and then he went and got silver and open. So, look, my first purple belt match, I'll take it. Then I won a few tournaments. I got to, which was it? I'm trying to think. I went to International Masters. I did win Ultra, got silver and open. So, I mean, I've done okay, but it wasn't like, you know, I've lost, I could count them on both hands, but I mean, compared to what it was. So it is an experience, but this year I'm going to do well.
Let's go.
I know it, you know, so
let's go.
Brazil, International Masters.
You look healthy. You look great. You look like you're.
Look, and I'm cutting weight. I mean, I got up to 242 for the no-gi stuff.
I saw that. Yeah.
But look, it's like I stopped intermittent fasting. I started eating at 7:00.
You're not trying to do ultra anymore, right?
No, indeed.
You don't want some 400-pound guy falling on your leg.
It's crazy. I'm 240. I think I'm big. And then I get there, and everybody's like 40 pounds heavier than I am. They're not as tall as me, some of them, but The guy that won Worlds last year, well, 2 years ago was Shawn. He's 6'11", a Canadian, 6'11", 310. Then the guy last year was another Canadian. I don't know what they feeding these guys. He's 6'5", 305, dude.
Bunch of they eat moose.
Bro,
up
they
there.
were just massive, and I'm like, dude. And I don't care if somebody's like, well, they just sit on you. Okay, well, it still sucks, and they win. So, but super heavy. I'm going to go back. I'm 227 this morning. That's what I weighed in it because I've been checking everything. I stopped. I went back to intermittent fasting, not eating every 2 hours. I mean, I felt like I was in college again, trying to put on weight for basketball. It was like protein, start off with a meal, get a protein shake in 2 hours, another meal, protein shake. So I got up and weighed. Felt good. Cardio kind of went to crap, even though I was still training, But now I've lost that weight, went back to intermittent fasting, dropped it pretty quick, and now I'm at that 227.
Intermittent fasting, if you're training, that works very, very well.
It's amazing. Yeah, and then of course, I take CLA and creatine. I take enough supplements, peptides and stuff just to keep me.
I just started the Wolverine stack for peptides, the BPC 157, the TB 500, and I added the glow in there for.
Oh, the CU, the copper.
Yeah.
I haven't taken that, but everybody tells me they said that stack works well. I've done the Wolverine just so last year in Brazil, my first matches, I tore my meniscus, and so that sucked.
That healed your meniscus?
Yeah.
I tell you what, I had some shoulder pain, and it was like a few days of that, and it was like I feel great.
Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you. Look, so I didn't do the when I did do the peptides when I first started, but then the doctor, we did an MRI and everything, and he told me what it was, a minor tear. He said I may not need surgery. So this is whenever I got into, I'm part owner and now of Reset ECS. That's our cannabinoid company. And so I started using the products. The CEO and the founder, Barry Bonner, he actually said, hey, buddy, he grows hemp. So that's how I got to meet him in North Texas.
This is a good transition. You finished that thought, but I want to talk about your business now that you have with your Delta and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Delta Agrofiber. Oh, well, yeah, it's a hemp company. I founded it with another partner in 2021. I really started, we had another business, 2019. We were going to start up everything in 2020. Well, 2020, 21, COVID hit. So the cannabis, and we were only going to do non-consumables because, me being an instructional engineer by trade, being in construction, we wanted to build sustainable homes with hempcrete. I don't know if you've ever heard of hempcrete, but I got I'll show you a little bitty sample of it. But 2022 came around. What we wanted to do was do something that had really never been done in Louisiana, is build or grow hemp for the sustainability part of things. And so, we found some farmers and an agronomist that would actually grow it out in Sunset. And actually this piece right here is actually from that original grow, massive piece. But what you do is whenever you grow the hemp, everybody wants it for this fiber here, this bass fiber.
Okay. And
then of course for me being on the construction side of things, this woody part is called the hurd. So the hurd, we sent it off to a processing facility out in Texas. I've got multiple processing facilities, but I just bought into, so I'm part owner of we're working the transition through, but I'll be part owner of a processing facility called Cannavision. It's south of Fort Worth. And so I don't know if you've seen the videos, but that's where I send my product. I bring my product there myself. I bale it up and I bring it, and then they make the hurd. And then with the hurd, it's like a wood chip looking material. We put lime, pozzolan, and water and the hurd together, and it makes like this hempcrete. Here, check.
So maybe,
see.
So for people who don't understand, you've educated me. I've learned the most about this from you. Mm-hmm. There's some very positive things about using hemp.
Oh yeah, I mean,
because the way it's good for the soil, it's good for energy, it's super fast. And you want to go over a few different things why it's such a great.
So the plant itself is it's a God-given plant, number one. But I mean, look, and I don't smoke. I don't smoke it. I mean, and all of our stuff is done through. We have to stand at a certain THC level. Like this piece right here, which is funny, is this piece actually we went over the THC levels this past year, but we let it grow for a longer period of time. It was a different strain. So we were the first company in Louisiana history to do a contingency plan that was approved by the LDAF, and I was able to remediate this half an acre. But I mean, it's a big success story because a lot of times before that, a lot of the people would just cut their crop and burn it. And I was like, there's no way. I said, we spent all that money on seed, all this other stuff. And it wasn't 5 acres or 10 acres. So it was easy to do. But I proposed to the LDAF, hey, let's do this. We'll cut the top third off, take all the seeds, all the flowers off, and then we'll cut it. We'll make it to where it's just a stalk. You come test it again. And of course the THC low was next to nothing. So we passed it. So they allowed me to bale it and send it off to Texas.
So you're able to make all these amazing products out of this plant.
Yeah, and so like here's the other product that we have, like I said.
But it's closely, so you're able to grow it, and you're saying this AF. So it's closely monitored to make sure it's nothing that people can. It's not a drug. It's something people to use.
The LDAF. I mean, when I first, you've got to get fingerprinted, FBI, everything. You got to get the background checks. But basically, no, they know. And every piece of property, I've got over 17 farmers growing in Louisiana now, all the way from North Louisiana all the way down to Gaydon, Louisiana, the Benoits. So they own D&T crawfish, and so that's always fun. So when I go to see them, I try to grab crawfish from them, and they're in full season now. But we've got all these people growing, and so we've been doing that for 2 years. So we were the first group to actually, from seed to harvest to processing, and we've got the receipts. We were the first group to be able to do that. So me, Matt Indest, and another farmer from Sunset, we were able to do that, and so that was a big start. We knew that we could do it successfully, and then since then we've actually done it twice a year, which that has drawn attention from all different types of people from around the country. So we can grow in the fall as well as the spring. The spring is where we really start off. It's usually March, April. So we're about to start seeding. I've got about 225 acres that we'll be planting this year. So that's a jump from 50 the last year. So each year we're growing with different farmers. I've got the Black Farmers Federation. I've got some co-ops. I've got other farmers from around the state. Yeah. I just had a big meeting with the USDA in Southern last week. And we're going to be working with Southern and them as a partnership with the USDA. But we're going to be working on the growing part of it, or the hempcrete part of it with me, the construction company. And then because I've been engineering small hempcrete homes that we're going to be building, and I work with Hannah Duke. She's one of the vice presidents of the women's battered.
So hempcrete, that's basically concrete equipment.
It's really more of a it's not really. It doesn't have a high structural capacity. So what you use that for, it's more of a insulator. Okay. So, but that stuff, with it being lime, pozzolan, hemp, and water, when it makes that material, it's basically fire retardant. So all these homes in California, they would not have burned down like they did if had this as a insulator.
That's fascinating. Well, maybe you can expand on this a little bit. So, normal process of growing food, at a certain point, the things in the soil, maybe the nitrogen, whatever, it sort of gets exacerbated.
It does. It
depletes, and they sort of need to move around. But this particular crop can be planted there, and it sort of re-enriches that.
So what it does, so we do supplement over each year. So, but the thing is, the difference is, this actually they do. So photoremediation is one thing that this plant actually will take the heavy metals and other items that need to be remediated. The soil, it'll take it out of the soil, and since it's non-consumable, we can still use it, but you do have to supplement, just like farming, and you have to do crop rotations and everything throughout the different seasons. So like every third grow, we'll get like a soybean, or we'll get some kind of cover crop. There's some different there's a teff grass that we've used prior, that it actually we let it grow 36 inches, we lay it down, and then we let it decompose naturally to bring nitrogen and other things. I work close with LSU and a few agronomists. Like I told you, we've got some on staff that when we get a farmer, well, now this year, 2026 is the first year. We've partnered with Panda Biotech, Heartland, Conda, which is a seed company out of China, and then Australian hemp. So we're doing a seed program where I'm getting a low cost on the seed, and I'm distributing it to all my farmers. And what I'm going to do is they've got to grow it just the way we want it. They've got certain details. We got to check their soil. What I do is I sit down with the agronomist and the scientists and all them, and we say, okay, this is what you need to supplement your soil with, and I give that to the farmers. That's on them. We give them a little stipend. That way they can be supplemented for their sweat equity and all that stuff that gets put in. And then once the seed's going to get put in the ground, it should be March 15th through 21st. We should get the seed in from both, China and Australia. We're going to distribute it. They're going to seed drill it, put it in the ground. 2 weeks, we'll get a stand. We'll see how it goes. And then we'll start working with them. As it gets bigger, we're going to test it at 45 to 60 days to make sure it doesn't go hot, which is over 0.3%, LDAF and USDA standards. And then we're going to harvest it. They're going to bale it, and then I'm going to buy it, and we're going to bring it to our processing facility in Texas. So it's a no-brainer. They're not paying for this seed. So basically, there's no investment on their side. All they got to do is put the sweat equity in the diesel in, and then we're going to buy it back.
And you're guaranteeing that you're going to buy it
it's a guaranteed
whatever they grow.
Buyback. Absolutely. Okay. That's one reason we're glad.
There's no risk really for them.
There's really no risk. They're farmers anyway. I mean, look, but it's such a newfound thing, and it's been failed at. So, look, I failed at it for the first 2 years. Look, I can't tell you. I can tell you. Well, I can tell you, but I don't want to publish all the failures we've had. But I failed over there in Monroe. I failed there in Shreveport. I failed in Lafayette. I failed in Mandeville, Covington. But once I got it, and I knew what we needed to how I need to work the soils and how it works. And I'll be honest with you, a guy from California 2 years ago. This is when it really hit. He said, you're growing this for a great reason. Battered women's shelters. You're going to build these homes for them, nonprofit. You're going to do with the Wounded Warrior program. He said, but that plant and just farming in general is a spiritual process. I was like, huh? He's like, have you ever prayed over your seed? I was like, actually, I have. So every time before I plant, you'll see me, I'll grab the seed, I'll pray over it and say, hey, look up, bless me. I want you to bless me, bless this seed. Thank you for what it's going to do. And so I think that's part of why I've been successful. But I've also told my farmers, I joke with them. I was like, we're going to pray over this seed whenever we get it down and those bags get open. I said, I'm a hemp evangelist is what I call myself. I said, we're going to pray over this seed, and that's when it's going to work. And, you do have to listen to because we had a sugarcane farmer in central Louisiana, 25 acres he wanted to start off with, $10,000 worth of seed. I was like, hey, guy. He's like, but his equipment, he's a third generation guy, and he knows how farming. He made a small mistake. He seed drilled over half an inch, almost an inch, and he's supposed to only go a quarter to a half. And that's what caused that not to grow. And so we didn't get a stand 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so it was a total loss. And that's the kind of hard things that, I'll share that with people, and people know that, hey, I've got receipts of failure, but I've got receipts of success. And now it's been success twice a year, and now this year we're going to try for that. The summer's very hard because of our high heat, and we don't do irrigation on it's mostly dry land. Now we do have some farmers that are going to try irrigation, which that'll be shooting fish in a barrel for us.
I think that's something I've picked up from jiu-jitsu. Maybe you have that failure is part of success.
Oh, it's the most important part of success. There's no way that you're going to be successful in anything in life without failure. Now look, and you know where I come from. Humble means, in a sense, I never got anything from a mommy or a daddy. And look, this is what's changed my life is actually becoming where I'm at now. Growing up, we used to always call those rich kids from Baton Rouge Zachary and all that. And I used to have animosity about those kids. And, that animosity and hate towards my stepdad and these other people because they had things that I wanted that I knew that I couldn't have. But as I've grown up, and I think I've come somewhat successful, I think that I look at it now, like, look what I give to my kids. But my kids will tell you, you're working. Like Seth, that boy works. He's up in Denver right now. He's finishing up a construction management degree. He's going to go into engineering at Colorado State University, which is awesome, probably next year. Stella just got accepted to Alabama and LSU Alabama's where she's going to go for architectural engineering. I know. Sorry, everybody, but they just have such a beautiful program. And I've been going back and forth with their engineering dean and some of the architectural engineering professors. So she's chosen that. So we're working everything out so she starts maybe in the summer or in the fall. So that's another family member that's going to go into engineering and architecture. Because I guess this is a funny story. In 2016, I took a DNA test to find out a few things. I wanted to see if my dad was really my dad. I didn't know him. My grandmother Rome had raised me with my mom growing up, she's the most amazing person. She's probably the person that instilled the most confidence in me, which I didn't have a lot growing up. I faked it a lot because I was so insecure. Lied, like you said, I lied about everything. Yeah, we didn't have a TV growing up. It's probably a blessing. But then people would say, hey, did you watch that? I'm like, oh, yeah, cool, awesome. Did you watch them? No, we couldn't afford to go to the movies. We couldn't do anything extracurricular. But I was just so embarrassed. And the cool thing was my mom, she would buy us an outfit from from somewhere in the mall, and I would probably wear it out. You know, I had a pair of Jabot jeans, and they were like, but I used to get we used to get our clothes from Loaves and Fishes at Bethany, which with that people donated. And it sucked because some people were like, hey, I got a shirt like that. I'm like, yeah, it's probably yours. Probably was yours. And our food, my mom, you know, she's single, raising 3 boys. Look, she's an all-star. She didn't work per se, but she worked for the church, and they took care of her in a sense. And we used to get, you know, cereal in a bag with Weebles in it and powdered milk and government cheese. And hey, it must have done something good. I mean, you know, physical wise, but just we going through those kind of things. I used to be upset, and I used to hate on those people that their parents would give them stuff. Well, now somebody in their family had to do something to make it, to get them to where they're at. And I'm not saying everybody was as successful as I am in that sense, but when you look at history in a sense, somebody in that family, and I know people want to say, you know, back in the day it was easier if you were white or this or that, but regardless of race or color, somebody had to be the one that either had to break generational curses, get their family out of poverty. And look, it's not easy. I've lost family members. I don't talk to my to half my family because, you know, they think this, that, and the other. But hey, you know what? I know what I'm doing. I look, the alcoholism, the addiction, that was a big thing in both sides of my family. Broke it. Being there for my children, being a father, you know, that's still there. Being a grandfather now, that's huge. My dad never got to see, you know, was able to be a grandfather. His father passed away when he was like only 12. So I never had a grandfather from that side of the family. And since my mom's family, I mean, she moved from Hawaii when she was very young. Why they moved here is because my grandpa had family, but my mom's mom was from Japan, that family. So they lived in Hawaii, they moved here, but her parents passed away when she was no older than 14 or 16.
Well,
So-
I'll say this, Shawn, and everyone who probably knows it.
Yeah.
So, you're a good man,
Yeah.
and you're a wonderful father.
Well, thank
I
you.
can see that you're an inspiration to me, and I'm sure anyone who knows you and sees the things that you're doing, and just honestly really proud to even just know you, man. And
But it's look, it's been work, you know, and I've been blessed. I mean, look, I could have been things could have been a lot different growing up, and I probably should have been in a lot more trouble than I was. And I know sports, and there's been a few coaches and stuff that have stood by my side a little bit, that done what they could. But I mean, the one thing as far as being a father, that's one thing I said, I know what I didn't want, and I know what I wanted, even from having a stepfather for a short period of time, right? And so that's what I've molded myself to be as far as, because look, there's been times when I'm sitting there and I'm like, what do I do as a father? What do I do? You know, I'm talking, and especially having a daughter. Man, Stella's been my life. You know, I mean, when I saw her, I was like, oh my God, my game just changed. So, but I've been around boys all my life. So having her was just like eye-opening, and that was just like, oh, I'm ruined. Wrapped around that pinky for the rest
now
of
I
my
can
life.
tell.
And now she's 18, and she knows she's the love of my life. She's my heart. And but you know, she's been the most amazing person in helping me raise Stella, because she's telling me, she's like, you can't do that to a girl. I'm like, what? It's like Seth was a knucklehead.
Your wife is wonderful also.
Yeah.
She's also an engineer. Brilliant.
Yeah, she's an engineer. You know, she tried to get into jiu-jitsu for a while, and she was like, it's okay, but I don't like sweaty guys all over me. I was like, that's cool. I like
fair.
it. That's fair, you know?
Fair point.
And so we would try to.
No one likes that, but
No, Stella liked it. Stella did it for a little while too. I told her, I said, you've got to learn this kind of thing, because you'll be going off to college, and boys are boys, and boys get drunk, and you might be in a situation where at least, you know, you can kick him off of you. At least, you know, being in close quarters with a person, that you're not going to be like, oh, and just lay down and give up. So, but being a father is probably one of the most rewarding things in my life. No businesses set aside, you know, the engineering, the construction. We have Delta Agrofiber, which is this year is going to be the biggest year that we've ever had, which is really the only big year we've had, because really we haven't made a dollar yet because of just R&D, trial and error efforts. And now we've got some people that are looking into grants, and we're looking into them with Southern, USDA, NIFA. And so this year, I'm telling you, it's going to be amazing. And then, of course, I'm also CEO and founder of another biochar facility, which we'll wait to get into that. But it's a big time sustainable effort. Our parent company is Biochar now, out of Berthoud, Colorado, and that's going to be an amazing. Whenever I can't talk a lot about it because we got a lot of things going on with, you know, nationally, and then just a lot of things that haven't been discuss. We can't
Sure.
discuss.
Well, when you're ready, we can come back and
yeah,
talk about
absolutely.
that again.
But it's gonna be the next. It's gonna help Louisiana agricultural sector just as much as this hemp will. By 2030, the hemp's going to be a big deal. Like I said, with the people we have on our board and the other farmers that are joining us and everything, like Akila Fontenot, can't give her enough. She actually is the vice president of the Black Farmers Co-op, and she's been awesome this year. So she's joined on, but business wise, that's all great. I mean, you can be successful and you can make. Is it money? If that's what people are looking at, of course, money. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. I tell that to every person that I even come across. But you got to have a reason. You got to have a why. And I'm here to leave a legacy. I think with me being able to break some of the generational curses, the chains that come along with our family. My older brother's done well too. My younger brother's still working on it. We love him. He's in Florida too, and everybody's different. But what I'm going to do here and now is going to be big. And the next for Louisiana Agricultural, Southern, LSU, they're all on board. And look, if I got to do all the work and they can ride my coattails, so be it. I'm not going to rely on anybody else. I never have. So that's the way I look at it. But
I love that for you, Shawn.
That is what's made me look back and say, so just recently I had an epiphany. And I was like, I'm never going to miss Soren's soccer games. I used to fly in when I had that oil company, the transportation company, that went belly up because we had partners embezzling and they were doing things with global oil companies that weren't right. And I had the FBI and Goldman Sachs come into my trailer. Me and Laura just sitting there. She was my admin. These guys come in there all dressed up and they're like, "Are you Shawn Ledig?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am. Who's asking?" And the guy was like, "Well, I'm from the FBI. I'm from Goldman Sachs and we need to talk with you." I was like, "Oh my God, I can't talk too much about it." But they basically came in, had 26 trucks in Steubenville, Ohio, and they put a 4-foot sand berm around it. And they're like, "You're shut down." I was like, "Wait, time out." So I had some people in Texas and I had some people in New York that I went and met, and I was like, "Hey, I don't have anything without this." I left the engineering world, and so they stepped up, and the rest is history. They helped out, and we were able to continue with our Hyperion EMS. That's our environmental management group, and so we do our engineering through. But I tell you what, just the way the world works, like you said, a lot of people would have laid down, and some people are like, "I can't believe." Even the guys that the holding companies and the gathering companies, when I went to tell them what had happened, they're like, "That sounds like a movie." I was like, "Well, yeah, it kind of is. But can you help me? Because I need your help. I don't have a mommy. I don't have daddy's money. I don't know, and there's no way I'm going to get all these millions of dollars to keep this thing going. But I got a contract and I can't say the name, but from one of the biggest oil companies in the world, and they were like, "You're full of it." I was like, "Here, can you read an iPad?" They're like, "Well, what do you need from us?" So I was able to work that, and we did that until COVID hit. But then COVID came, and then that's whenever we couldn't sustain what we were trying to do even with all the drivers we had in the trucks. So we kind of shifted from there. I went back to engineering, and then that's whenever the focus came on the Delta Agro. But even with all that, it's all that money in the world. Doesn't matter. And I've seen this time and time again. I think I saw it growing up where I had friends that had money. Their families had money, and kids in Zachary and all Baton Rouge. But their families were just dysfunctional. And most families, no family's normal. Let's just say that.
No.
It's just what's normal to you, what's normal to, and that's all changed since we were kids. But it's like, but all I know is I'll always be there for my kids. Like I said, whenever I had the oil company, I used to fly in on Sundays to watch a flag football game in Mandeville. My youngest son, I do the same thing for him. If I'm out of town, I make sure I come in. I'm not going to be able to make Pans this year because we have a soccer game a tournament in Florida. And I had to talk to Eric about that. I said, one thing I'm never going to do is I'm not going to miss these big events for my kids. I never have. I never will.
That's great, Shawn.
And he's like, "No, go ahead. You're going, go to Brazil next. Go to this." For us, it's not this it's a hobby for us, but they understand. My team understands.
My friend Brock, who works with me, we always accommodate him. He likes to pick his daughters up from school. He likes to drop them off. Yeah. He wants to go to all their games, and so I make sure I bend over backwards to coordinate that.
And that's how I am with my employees and associates that work with me. Family first. You need to take care of that. Like I drop Soren off at school every morning, and we have a little, we have fun. I wake up and we get in the car, and I'm like, "How you doing, bud? How'd you sleep?" And then when we pull up to school, they've got 5 parking, as you go through the car line. So before we get in, I'm like, what number you got, 2 or 3, and or he'll pick the number, and I'll usually pick one that's a little from him. So that's our little game. Like we see who won that day. This morning I won. We were going, and I said, "What you got?" He's like 3. I said, "I'm going to take 2."
Well,
and we got it.
I'll say the happiest person I've ever seen was you on a tractor, driving your tractor through him.
Yeah, with him.
I said, look at the joy on Shawn's face. He should have been a farmer.
It's everything. I got him on my lap. He's enjoying it. You know, we're doing this. We're building this company, which will be. It's a brand now, and it's going to be that way. And he had fun. He has a blast. He's going out there with me. You know, he's playing with the seeds, and we're seeding everything. We're planting it. We're putting down our microbes we have a microbe company as well with Bonner Tech, which it's the same company that we have our brand with, but we have rad microbes. So we've been using the rad microbes on our past 2 crops, and it's amazing stuff. So anybody in the hemp world, if you want a solution to grow better hemp, we've got it. So, you know, rad microbes, but through Barry Bonner and some other people that are in the business, and we've gotten to be partners and stuff with these other businesses. It just keeps getting better and better and full circle. And actually, with our Reset ECS, when I leave here, I'm going to see the cannabis division because we are about to get that approved for the shelves in Louisiana. We're approved in Texas. Our lab is in Texas and Houston. And so, you know, we've got our product. I'm going to be in 17 chiropractic clinics over there, thanks to Shane Sig. He's one of my business partners, so he's going to put that in there. And everybody that's been using it, I've got some coming to you as well.
Okay.
I got some coming from the lab. They're going to give you a little package.
Cool.
But everybody's been, it works. I wouldn't have got into the company if it wouldn't have been for me getting injured in Brazil. You know, and I was like, man, this stuff, but it's different. It's not a CBD. It's actually several cannabinoids all together, which your body makes cannabinoids, you know, naturally. And he's got doctors on staff. He's got scientists. If you look us up on the website, I mean, I'm just the good old.
What's the website address?
www.resetecs.com.
Resetecs.com. I'll put that link.
Yeah, and then you can see our products. Now, the one thing that we are still waiting on is we got an oral tincture. Now, I mean, I'm going to get this for you because you can test it for us. But just with the food and administrative, you know, red tape and stuff, we're still testing that. But we do have a salve which is made with beeswax. Everything's all natural because everything we do is organic.
Yeah, I know you eat well and you take great care of your life.
Well, I didn't eat much growing up, so I try to. You know.
Oh, dude. Yeah, you post some great pictures of great food. I tell Jessica that we go to New Orleans, we got to call Shawn and say, Shawn, where do we eat? And you know the spots.
Even when we go like around the world, like I said, that's Angelique and Stella, and all of them. They're like, what are we gonna eat? And I was like, I got it covered. I look up, you know, I've never, like when first time I went to Italy or France, I was like, I've never been to a Michelin star restaurant. I'm just, you know, but I love food, so I don't drink, I don't do this, I don't do that, I don't have many bad vices, but you know, these are the 2 things I do. I drink coffee, and I like coffee a lot, and I also like to eat. So that's where I splurge, you know. I do
the
that.
Man, Shawn. Well, any thing you'd like to say for your story is amazing, by the way, very inspiring, and
thank you.
You could tell even now that there's a lot ahead for you. Yeah. Is there anything you would say that if you could talk to the, I guess, 20-year-old, 18-year-old, 15-year-old Shawn?
I was going to say, if you went back every few years, I'd have to. 15 was a rough time because that's when I was getting shipped off to that boarding school. I mean, I can tell you exactly. I walked in, the headmaster Barry was like, "What do you think about my place?" I said, "This place effing sucks." He was like, my mom was probably like, "Oh my God," and he was like, "Well, that's good because you're going to be here for a while." I was like, "Okay, whatever." And my mom's like, "What do you think?" I was like, "You're gonna," and this is my words. I was like, "You're going to smoke a turd in hell for this one." I was like, "This is crap." I mean, like I said, I don't blame her for what she did. No matter, look, she did a great job with given what she had to work with. Dude, she made freaking lemonade out of lemons, and she made the best gumbo you could ever imagine. I mean, she's, you know, we love her. She's mom. So, you know, we call her Dee Dee. That's what the grandkids call her. But I mean, I would tell my 15-year-old, like, hey, it's going to pass. And, you know, I would have also given him some advice like, hey, basketball, stick with it. You know, stick with what you're passionate about, you know, and of course, so that would have been it. 2021, I'd have been like, enjoy your time doing what you're doing, walking this runway and doing this because it's short-lived. And I can tell you this, being in that industry, People always think it's glamorous. Man, it's the most rejection you will ever see in your life. Like, not even close. I mean, all it is rejection after rejection. Man, I had a company in New York one time. I thought I was, that lady looked at me and this is how, like, I've walked in, I've signed contracts. I walked in with her. They paraded me around like a dog. And then she was like, did this. Bye-bye. And I was like, what? I walked out, called my agent. I was like, Tracy, what the hell? She's like, I guess you're not for them. And I was like, oh my God. So went and saw all these other agencies. And it's the same thing. It's like, no. And then finally, yeah, you're okay. We like you. Come on and check it out. I'm like, so, and then New Orleans was a smaller pond. But then Miami was always good because I was, athletically built per se, and they were good. But the rejection there. So I told myself, hey, keep your nose clean, number one, and be smart, but it's enjoy what you're doing because it's short lived. And then 25, 27-year-old Shawn with the engineering, I'm getting out like, hey, it's harder than you think, buddy, but you got to stick with it. And I guess I did stick with it because I've got 3 great friends of mine that I graduated with. Tim K, who we all have our own engineering groups now, and we all work together. Carmelo Gutierrez and Brian Froba, which is amazing. But if it wasn't for those guys, I don't know how I'd have graduated because Katrina hit. So things got really crazy. So for that last year, I had to go to LSU and UNO. And I actually had to take 24 hours of engineering courses to graduate. Because if I didn't, I would have had to wait almost a year and a half because of the classes, those 4,000 level classes. So LSU and UNO's dean told me that if you're dumb enough to do it, we're dumb enough to sign your paper. They don't work. I was like, sure. I've got Seth is like 3 years old by then. So I was working offshore out of Venice. This is what I would do. I'd go to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday, I'd be packed. I'd go to Venice, Louisiana from Thursday to Sunday. And I was working around the clock. So it was good money at that time. And then I would get to study and do stuff at school. And I'd come back to it. Sunday night, I'd come back from Venice. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, drive back out. So that was how I did everything. It was crazy. But I was same thing. I would said, hey, it's hard and you're going to get through it and just keep going with it. In my 30s, I'd have probably said, you're crazy for wanting to try to play a sport at this level at 33. I didn't touch a volleyball until I was almost 34. I went to a league and played out. I would have told my 35-year-old self, hey, don't listen to the haters. You're going to find some people that are going to coach you. Everybody around here that doesn't want you to compete and doesn't want you to play, you're going to end up beating them anyway. Go ahead and play. And it was the boys in Texas and Ohio and then the California guys eventually that coached me. So, going to California is like a whole nother ball game on that. But, and then my 40s, 45, go ahead and stick with that jiu-jitsu thing. You're going to like it. So I think the biggest thing I would have told my 15-year-old self is, hey, you're loved. You just need to know it. And, and you need to, I guess I would have told him like, hey, you don't have a good person to be there as a mentor or as an example, but or you're going to eventually know like, hey, I don't need that. I would have loved it, but I know what I do want and what I don't want. Just grow from there. So that's what I would have told myself all those years. But the biggest thing is this: just keep your head down, be patient, have discipline, and make it happen. Because nobody else is going to do it for you.
Shawn,
that's what it is.
Pleasure, brother. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Craig. I appreciate you, man.